gosh, you guys, and I haven't even said a word. I want to take you with me all the time. Can I just put you in my back pocket? So when I start to feel down and lonely, happens a lot when you're doing this kind of work. So actually, this image will stay with me because I need it. It's actually not so funny, but I get why you want to laugh, because it's like, let's break the ice, but it's really an intense time out there, which is why I really want to thank Patrick Lannan and the Lannan Foundation for having me here today in this place with all of you. Patrick, thank you so much. It really means the world to me to be able to be here, because it means that I feel like I have a community. And community is really, really super important. The fact is that I spend a lot of my time getting from one place to another. So my community becomes my crew, whoever I'm working with at that particular time, and it's my family. But when I'm out and about, I don't have you with me in the back of my pocket, although I kind of like that image, so I think I'm going to keep it with me. But you know, the essence of community is so important because it changes everything when you have human contact. It changes our minds. We no longer feel like this person is less than human because at this point you have made a contact with them. And community does just that. It allows you to feel bonded to a fellow human being. The enemy becomes less your enemy once you have touched this person. And this person has felt your touch. And that's why, really, I touch everyone who I interview, except for when I'm not allowed. And it has happened. It's been a little weird, but I've completely pulled back. But I have to respect that there are traditions where that is not allowed. But I do touch, because I do think that there's something that happens in that moment. And you're probably wondering now, why is she talking about humanity and touching people? I thought she was going to talk about immigration and the border. What is she talking about? Because actually, my friends, mis queridos amigos, I am in a state of shock. But I can only tell you a little bit about what I have seen, because I am in the midst of it. And so there's only so much that I can reveal. There are stories that I will tell you about stuff that is coming up, like right now, this week on Latino USA. We'll have a very big, special half-hour documentary about the Dominican Republic, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We have a piece coming up on Need to Know, also about the Dominican Republic, and actually the same issue that I'll be talking about here, which is deportations and detentions of the other. In this case, Dominicans deporting Haitians. Yeah, it's very ugly. But I am actually deep, deep in a Frontline documentary. As far as I know, I'm the first Latina to anchor a Frontline documentary, so I am really... It took a long time, but I was not going to give up. I was just not going to give up, and thankfully, I'm there, and I'm working with, you know, the most serious, top-notch investigative crew in the country, and in, you know, parts of the world. So I'm really honored. It is a documentary about immigrant detention centers and policies leading up to that. So that's a little bit about where I've been. I'm going to get to that in a second. But, you know, like you, every day I wake up and I check the headlines, whether it's, you know, on the web or real paper or Twitter or Facebook. I know, I could never imagine that I would be saying I check headlines on Twitter. Oh my God, what has happened to me?
So we're going to just talk for a while, partly about the conversation, the talk that you just gave, and some other things too. And I want to start with something that, well, I had a while back Mayor Koss on my show. By the way, those of you who don't know, I'm the host of the Santa Fe Radio Cafe, which airs on Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 in the morning. And Mayor Koss was on my show one time, and we were talking about an immigration raid that had happened in Santa Fe, and he gave a really impassioned statement about how the Constitution applies to everybody in the United States. What you just talked about is obviously, if that is true, unconstitutional. Have there been or are there constitutional legal challenges to the 1996 immigration bill that gave rise to all of this?
No. No. Well, there was actually, wait a second, but I'm not going to get this right because it's not my level. But yes, it did come to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld. I'm trying to remember exactly what part they upheld. But it is one part of it. So it has been challenged. What hasn't happened yet is for there to be a case before the International Human Rights Court, which could happen.
Do you have any examples? I mean, you talked about how people who have green cards are so vulnerable. What are some examples of people who have been...
Okay, so I know, because it's just like, what is she talking about? All right, so let me see. Basically what happened in 1996 is that certain crimes became subject to mandatory detention. And it's called exactly like this, mandatory detention. There was the creation of a term called aggravated felon, which sounds like it's a really bad, somebody who's not just a felon, but an aggravated felon. And under these categories, there are crimes that if committed and you get a sentence of a year and a day, then you are subject to mandatory detention. And you are considered an aggravated felon in immigration laws. So what would happen is that, for example, if you had a green card and in 1990 you were caught once selling or with drugs, marijuana or cocaine, and you got even a, what do you call it, a suspended sentence, but it was a sentence of a year and a day, and you never served any time, and you just completed parole, even in that situation. Or if you were in fact convicted and found guilty, and you went to prison and completed your sentence, and that was in 1990, when you were a legal permanent resident, and now, one day, there's a knock at your door, and they'll just say, hello, we're looking for, well, there's a whole other part of that, which is how they appear at your homes. But they would come and they could take you from your home with a green card, or you could have some kind of interaction with the police. For example, you have a broken taillight on your car and you're stopped, and at that point, then they can put you back into the system, and they may take you into the local jail to talk about the broken taillight or the tickets that you didn't pay, and you'll think that that's resolved. And you'll walk out and immigration will be waiting for you right outside the door, and they'll pick you up.